Okay, hear me out. I promise it's a good investment. Guys, I'm so excited. Pyrodrone is legit, and I just got the Pavo Pico frame. It's DJI O3 compatible, so you guessed it, I got the O3 air unit. I'm gonna open these up, I'm gonna start assembling it. I'm so excited. I have the V2 headset as well as the RC2 controller, so I'm super used to flying the FPV and the Avata. I wanted something a bit smaller, and so we got the Pico. With the Pico, I got 3 sets of these batteries, so there's 2 each inside of here. With these batteries, you'll need a charger, and I got this one. It's got 2 output ports, so we can charge 2 batteries at once. Got a bunch of features. I don't know how these work, so I'm gonna ask my friend, and I'll figure it out. Now, I can only charge 2 at once, right? But I got 6 batteries, as well as the small 2S battery that this came with. So from AliExpress, okay, listen, I know it's from AliExpress, but my friend told me he's used this forever, and it's good. I got this, I think it's a parallel charger, so it should charge them at the same time. Voltage across all of them will be the same, and current will split charging all of them. Like 4 sets of extra props, he told me to. I'm not a noob, but I've never flown like a DIY one before, even though it's technically not DIY because it's kind of like already put together and I just gotta plug everything in, but still DIY for me. And because my connectors are smaller, I got these adapters as well. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead and build the drone. Alright guys, so I've pretty much opened everything. Let's start off with the drone unit itself. This is pretty cool. So looking at it, just my first impressions, the ducts are a soft plastic, so they're pretty bendable still. I do like the props and the motors. They're just 3 screws right here. It seems like the wires are kind of just clipped on underneath here, and then they go with these connectors to, I think this is the flight controller. And basically, if you ever damage one of these, you can just unclip it and then put it back in. So there's no soldering needed, which for someone that doesn't really have time to do all that work with the drone, this is super appreciated. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the motors. We have these 4 bolts holding it down, and then we have these 4 bolt holes. I believe that these are probably for the air unit. I have the DJI O3 air unit that we'll get to in a second. You have the place where you slot the battery in down here. The frame is carbon fiber, and you have the terminals, so the battery, you get your positive and negative, and then you have this one. Not sure what this one is for. Is it to go to the O3 unit? I don't know, but I'll find out. We have this bag with some accessories, some screws, standoffs, 2 antennas, a TPU for I think the camera, and then I believe some more mounting. It's possibly for the antennas. For the O3 unit, which is the one I bought, it comes with a cover to go over the lens so you don't scratch the lens. I actually have this problem with my DJI Avata. The lens is all scrapped and dinged and does not look good. We also got this. I'm not sure what this is, but we have extra props, and we have an extra cable. We have this 450 milliamp hour battery, it's a 2S, pretty small battery. I have more, I have better ones. I'm excited to test these out, so stay subscribed to see these. And we have frames for the O3 unit as well. Now let's talk about the DJI O3 Air unit. I love this thing. It's super small and it's super lightweight. Taking a look at it, using it with the Pavo Pico drone, you can see, boom, there is your lens looking right at you. It's got 4 screws, and I'm assuming that's so you can position it, you can mount it properly into place. Pretty hard plastic around the camera, which is nice. Of course, you have that lens covering initially. The cable going from the air unit to the actual camera, it's braided. Of course, you got the DJI logo right here. Pretty nice. It's got rubber at the end, so it goes from braided to a rubber insulation. It's rubber insulation. And then you have screws holding the top down. So these 2 screws, I believe, go from the top plate into the frame. These 2 screws do the same thing, but the ones on the other side, the ones on this side right here, screw the antenna down. So if you do want to replace the antenna with the antennas like the Pavo Pico comes with, you basically be unscrewing that, replacing this whole thing with those antennas. I'm not sure which preferred, not sure which one I'm going to do, but I'll find that out when I build it. And then these wires, I believe these are gonna go just to the drone, it just makes sense. But this is the O3 air unit, and you just got some warning labeling on here. I'm gonna take that off before installing it because plastic is an insulator, and it reveals another DJI logo. So super excited to see what this is gonna give me. Stay tuned guys and stay subscribed. All right, so let's go ahead and build the drone. All right, so I'm going to replace the stock antennas because from what I've read, replacing the stock DJI antenna with the ones that come with the Pavo Pico will reduce weight. All right, so with both of those removed, we can remove this plating and remove the antenna. From there, I'm gonna get the antenna out of the bag here. They look like little bat ears. Antenna 1, antenna 2. All right, be firm but gentle with those little guys. Now we just put the cover back on. Awesome. Okay, but the antennas slot and come out through the middle together. Cool, cool. And I'll just have them cross like that. Sweet, there we go. First little modification. Okay, so now we are going to install this to the little housing. Do it ever so carefully, putting the antennas through the holes. And we're gonna have to somehow pull this over. So good thing it's like plastic and we can just kind of get it to form like this. That looks pretty good to me. Saddled in there pretty well. Okay, so now we're just gonna basically bundle the wire up in here. Though, if I'm looking at this, there's a plastic ledge with the frame and then there's this rubber piece. I wonder if I should put the rubber piece above or under it. Looks like it's coming out from under it, so I'm just gonna leave it going under and then basically just kind of put it all up in here. Dang, does it really need to be this long? I guess for bigger quads, right? Undo these bottom ones and we're going to use that as the screws that mount it to the frame because yeah, they stop right here. They don't screw in anymore. So we have plenty of room to put this into the frame. Got to bundle this wire up, push it in together there, be able to put that in. All right guys, so this is the drone pretty much done and I made a little boo-boo. So if we look on this side, you see how the screw is flush? That's because I'm using the screw that comes with the Pavo Pico. That's the one that you're gonna want to use. Do not use the ones that originally came with the DJI O3 unit because you see how it sticks out like that? You'll get that. And it's not going to lock the camera into place. And it's gonna be constantly moving up and down when you don't want it to. So remember, flush, not out. Big difference. Got it? Cool. Now they say to use the TPU mount that it comes with, which is this one. And I get it's gonna add more weight, but as a beginner, I feel like it's more important that I protect the camera. Dang, really should have done this first. Okay. But you just kind of wiggle it on there and you're fine. All right, now the camera has a little bit of protection. All right, next are the rubber standoffs or the vibration dampeners. So they're in this little bag with screws and we're basically just gonna take all of them out and start fitting them into the drone body. So we're gonna take this guy, which is extremely light by the way. Crazy how much heavier this is than this, but I mean, if you think about it, it does make sense. Use some tiny pliers and just shove them into those holes. Boom, all right, that's one in. 4 more to go. Boom, all right, so we got all of our rubber standoffs in, and now we are going to put this guy together. So, how do we do this? I think first we're going to remove this cable because the one from the drone is going to go into it instead. To remove this without pulling at the wires itself, I'm going to use my little pliers. There we go. And now we'll take this guy and he's gonna go right here with the butt facing the battery area. We're going to take the super long self-tapping screws that come with the kit. I'm gonna use my 0 bit. I'm gonna start screwing it down. This does concern me that this is kind of down here because I don't want it to get caught in the motors. So let's push it up. Okay, I still don't like how it's mounted. We're just gonna go like this. Ah, there we go. That's better. And then use these self-tapping screws to go through the bottom to mount the Pico. All right, making sure it passes the squish test. Totally does. All right, so now we'll just plug in the VTX wire, the video transmission, I think it's called wire. Get in there. All right, it's totally in, not coming out. Boom. Awesome, we have our little guy. This is pretty cool. Here we go. That's so sick. It's so small. It's literally 4K in the size of my palm. Boom. Let's go fly this thing. Just kidding, we can't fly it yet because I have no clue what the battery charge level's at. So we're going to pull out this charger. We have our AC cable and we have the charger itself. Now it's a pretty cool feature, even though I don't think I'm gonna ever use it, but the top is a wireless charger for like a phone. I mean, I guess that's pretty cool. Anyways, I don't know how to charge these batteries, so I'm going to look up how to once I plug this all in, and then I'll be right back. All right, yeah, I actually have no clue what I'm doing, so yeah, I'm gonna have to check this. All right, guys, so I figured out the battery stuff out. Remember, I have the 2S cells and I have the 3S cells. It's charging, so I'm not gonna move it. 2S basically means we have 2 of these little packs in series. For the 3S, you can see we have 3 of the little packs. in series. Now I'm just going to be going over the basics, the very basics that you need to safely charge and discharge these batteries so that you can fly them with your drone. It's honestly not too technical. Let's just not make it complicated. I'm going to show you everything you need to know. So with this charger, we have two channels, channel 1 and channel 2. If you do use one of these parallel boards to charge, make sure the voltage is in the same ballpark. So obviously we're not going to charge a 2S with a 3S, and the voltage on the 3S, even though the max capacity, they're all the same, you don't want the voltage that it's currently at to be too different. 1 volt is the difference. So let's say that you have a battery that's at about 10 volt. That's what you ended at, you need to put it on the charger. Well, I would not then go ahead and charge another battery that's at like 8 volts. There's a 2 volt difference. You don't want to do that in a parallel. Now, if it's like 9 volts and 10 volts, that's not so bad. I would do that. But anything above 1 volt difference, you're going to want to charge them separately. Typically land at the same voltage, then you never have to worry about it. So yeah, I pretty much threw these on. They're similar voltage, they're charging in parallel, which means the voltage is the same and the current is going to split into both of these. So to choose between the different channels, if we're at the main screen right here, click channel. Guys, I'm so sorry about the glare, but you're going to be in channel 1 from there after you press this one time. And so I'm not charging anything at the moment, but if I was about to start charging something inside of the channel, whether it be 1 or 2, you'd press this red bar right here and you see all of these pop up. So you can click this again, and then it will allow you to select the task, whether you want a power supply, charge, discharge. The only 2 things you're going to really pay attention to are charge and storage. So when you want to store your batteries, you're going to click storage and then exit out of here, but I just want to charge this, so we'll click charge. It's going to auto detect it's a light pole. It will auto detect the cell voltage. It will automatically detect the cell count, and the only thing you're really going to want to change, other than the select task, whether you're charging or storing it, is going to be the current settings. Now, charge versus storage. I would say store these batteries if you're not going to fly them for about 2 weeks to a month. I would say a month you're fine. Actually, I don't know, but I'm going to go for a month. If you're not going to fly your batteries for a month, you're going to want to put them into storage mode. The current settings, to change that, it's the same thing. You're going to press down the red button and then you're just going to change the amperage. So for this 2S battery, it's 450 milliamps. We're charging with amps, single A. So we have to multiply this by 10 to the negative 3. Let's move the decimal over 3 places. So we have a 0.45. Now we don't have a 0.45 amps here, so we're going to round up and it's going to be 0.5 amps. That's what we charge this 2S battery at. For these 3S batteries, we have a 550. Now for the 550, you're going to want to charge it, if you round it up, to a 0.6 amps. If you're charging in parallel like this, you're going to add the amperage up. 550 plus 550 is going to be 1100. And so if we go to here, you're going to want to change it to be a 1.1 amps. And that's what we would be doing if we're charging it in parallel. I usually reserve this little one for the 2S. So I'm going to change it back to the 2S spec, which will be 0.5 milliamps. So 0.5. And then if this was plugged in here, we would start task. Now for these, doesn't typically matter what order, but my friend told me you plug in the yellow first and then this white one right here. And you're going to want to plug it in all the way to the right, basically where it has the circle with the dash through it, and then it has a 1. So you're going to start from the side that says 1. That's pretty much it. That's what we're going to start with this one. That's for this. Now let's exit here. Let's go to channel 2. Channel 2, you can see all this information. So it's charging at 0.2 amps. We have 917 milliamps. We have the time, how long it has been charging for. We have the voltage. We have more voltage. This is not really important, but if I press this, we can stop it. We can adjust the current. And yeah, you can adjust the current while it's charging, but let's go back because I heard it beep and we can see fast charging done. All right, so now that the fast charging is done, if we exit to the screen, we can see we have channel 1 on standby. That's this one. You can see I'm using the adapter for this because the 2S and 3S cells are smaller. So yeah, you got to use that adapter. Now it's fully done. And then we will go to channel 2. Boom, boom. You can see it still has some current. So let's go here, and pressing that red button will stop it from charging. You can see it went to standby mode and we're out. So that's pretty much it, guys. Now we can go ahead and safely remove the batteries. I've been using this charger for quite a bit now and I really like it. So if you have any questions about this charger, if there's anything I didn't go over, or you want something reviewed more, leave a comment below. And now we can put them into the drone, getting ready to connect it to Betaflight and start the pairing because we're ready to fly almost. Let's talk about binding. So you're gonna get your drone, your radio, as well as your headset. Last thing you're going to need, which is more mandatory than optional, is a fan. And that's so you can point it at the O3 unit. It gets very hot when it's stationary. Even when it's not stationary and flying, it gets burning hot. But at least you have the wind and everything to cool it down. When it's sitting on your workbench, you're not gonna have that. So you need a fan to cool it. Very important. The first thing that you're gonna want to do is turn your remote on. Make sure the firmware is up to date. Depending on your headset, for mine, I had to download the DJI Assistant 2, the DJI FPV series to update that. Just make sure the firmware is all good there. And then you're also gonna want to download the DJI Assistant 2, and this is the DJI Assistant 2 Consumer Drone Series. Once you have those installed, check the firmware, make sure the firmware is up to date. Once that's all good, let's get back to the drone. So we need to put the controller as well as the headset in binding mode. Use your 5D button to navigate. We're going to go into settings. We're going to go into the about section, it's all the way at the bottom. From there, press the 5D button forwards or until you see switch aircraft model. From there, click that. And if you are up to date, you should see 4 options: the DJI FPV, the DJI Digital FPV System, DJI Avata, and DJI O3 Air Unit. Depending on what you're flying is going to depend on which one of these you have your headset set to. For the Pavo Pico, since we have the O3 Air Unit inside of it, we're going to use the DJI O3 Air Unit. So select that. Your headset's going to ask you to restart. Simply power cycle the headset and then do the same thing. Go into settings, go to about, scroll all the way down, and make sure that this is set to the DJI O3 Air Unit. One last thing on the headset, you go to settings, you're going to want to go to control, and then from control, do you see where it says protocol? You're going to want to click that and set that to SBus baud fast. Now once that is selected, you can put this into bind mode. Putting this into bind mode, you're going to look on the side that has the battery on it. From here, look underneath the headset. So for this part, you're going to see the power cable that goes into the headset. Underneath that power cable, right under there, is going to be a small hole, very tiny hole. You're going to want to use something sharp and something small to go into that hole. You're going to press and then press and long hold. So press, press and hold until the headset starts beeping. Then it is in bind mode. The remote controller, it's a little bit easier. All you're going to want to do once it's powered on is press and hold the power button. That's it. Press and hold until it starts beeping. This is in bind mode as well. From here, you're going to want to put the battery into the drone terminal. This little bit, don't worry about it. We'll come back to it later. The aircraft will be powered on. Now to bind it, you're going to look at the right side of the aircraft. From there, you're going to see a small hole at the very bottom. There's actually a little triangle pointing to it as well. You're going to use that same small object for the headset to press and hold down here, and it should start flashing red. Once it's connected, it'll be a solid green. If you need to reset any of the bindings, like something to bind or anything, just redo the steps. So for like the headset, you gotta press and hold that button again. And then for the remote controller, just press and hold the power button. But I didn't have any issues with this, and I don't know anyone else to have had issues. So if you do, let me know in the comments below, and we'll solve it together. That's pretty much it for the bind, guys. Now we can go ahead and put it into Betaflight and configure everything. Alright guys, so now we're going to go ahead and download Betaflight. So let's open up a new tab or just go into your search bar. You're going to type in Betaflight and then it's going to be this one. So it's going to be the github.com/Betaflight configuration releases. For releases, I'm doing the latest one, so that's 10.10. You're going to scroll all the way down until you reach assets. So once you reach assets, you're going to want to download the installer for whichever system that you're running. So I'm currently on Mac OS. I would be getting the Mac OS one. On my Windows PC, I have this executable file. The zip and the executable are the same thing. One is just zip and one is just you're executing it as soon as you install it. So typically you're going to want either a Mac OS or the Windows installer. Once that's done, run everything, make sure it gets installed. If you are on Mac OS, you might have to go into your security settings and allow this to install. Same thing with Windows, except Windows will immediately give you a prompt and tell you, hey, this might be harmful. Do you want to install? It's not harmful, at least that I know of. So you should be good. So allow that to install and we should be able to open Betaflight. Opening Betaflight, it's going to look something like this. From our Beta FPV kit, we're going to want to get this little board right here, as well as the connector that goes from the quad into here. So it's going to be a white end with black cables, white end, and then it's going to go to this board, which has a tan connector, and then it's going to go to the tan connector on the quad. So it's pretty much this setup right here. It has a USB-C on the end, So you're going to want to use a USB-C to USB-C or USB-C to USB-A cable, whatever you need to plug it into your laptop. From there, you should see lights on the bottom that come on. Now notice I don't have the battery in yet. It should pop you up into the setup menu. So I'm only gonna go over the important parts which you need to put on to go and fly. So if you tilt the drone should move here. That's like the first step. Make sure everything moves as it should be right here. So drone is moving and it's moving inside the screen. That's perfect. Now we're going to go into ports. Depending on your version and everything, that's important. If you change anything, you're going to want to save and reboot. I think usually UART1 is turned on by default, but I have UART5 selected and that's what I'm using. That's what works. The other two tabs we're going to focus on are receiver modes, as well as the CLI. If your drone does disconnect during this process, it's normal. Don't worry, it sometimes happens. Just make sure that the disconnect button is not disconnected. It is connected. Now is where we're going to want to go into the receiver tab. So for the receiver tab, we're going to want to make sure that serial via UART is connected, and then SBus is connected for the serial receiver provider. This is important because this is the DJI protocol. Make sure you always save whenever you do anything. And for modes, these are my different modes. You can always play around with them. Briefly discuss what these are. So auxiliary 4 is the start stop button on the DJI remote. It's going to be this back one right here. That's going to be my arm. And I'll actually show you that right now. So let's plug in the battery and I'll show you it on the remote. Battery connected, drone on. Now remember guys, it's going to get hot. So let's turn on this fan. You might be able to hear the fan, so sorry about that, but let's not overheat this unit. Make sure the remote is on, and you can see when I change certain things on my remote, look at this pointer right here. It should change. Okay, I'm in this one. So that will change like that. So my arm button is this start stop button. So when I press it, you can see it'll go to arm. It will highlight red, and that's just because when you're connecting your drone to your computer, it's not going to arm the motors. That's just a safety thing. So to disarm it, press this again, boom, it goes back to outside of its scope. You can adjust this scope to whatever you like. You can also exit on the side right here if there's one that you don't want. I'm only flying in angle mode, which is basically you're leveled out forward, side to side. It's level, kind of like you're flying a Nevada in normal mode. And that's how I have it binded. It is auxiliary 1, and that is the end mode, normal. Now, if I flick this to sport, you can see it goes to the middle. Now, if we're armed, we're going to be in full acro mode. And that's pretty much it. I have this beeper, but I don't think I have a little speaker or anything on my drone. I have that binded to this one. And how do you know which button you're binding to? It's pretty easy actually. If you click this, you click auto right here. Once you click auto, whatever you press, it's going to put it right here. So I'm in auto, I'm going to press C1. You can see it automatically went to auxiliary 5. I have my flip over after crash as auxiliary 2, and that's basically the turtle mode. So that's going to be this one. This is auxiliary 2. When I push it all the way here, we're in turtle mode. And that's pretty much it for the receiver, guys. Just to make sure everything's working, go to receiver, and whoa, my guy is flipping. You should see all of these being adjusted. So you can kind of like, I guess, fly your drone inside of here, technically. Now, if that's not happening, don't worry, because this took me forever to figure out. Make sure everything is saved. We're gonna want to go to the CLI. Inside of here, you're gonna want to do set and then SBus, and then you should have the prompt right here come up and just press tab. It's gonna autofill it, SBus baud fast. You're gonna want to set that to be equal to on. I already have mine turned on, so I'm not gonna do it, but that's what you're gonna need to do. You're gonna want to press enter, and then from there, you're just going to want to type save, press enter, and that will save everything. Now go back to, oh, mine just disconnected. So like I said, it's totally fine if it does that. Now go back to receiver, and you should have inputs reflecting right here. If you don't, please leave a comment below. Let me know. Let's figure this out together, because this took me forever and I definitely needed some help. All right guys, so now hopefully you have everything paired to your drone, your headset, your goggles, everything is set up. You have everything set up in Betaflight. So now all that's left is to fly it. It's
pretty much it. This is the fun part. Now let's talk about the batteries really quick because it is kind of important. We already talked about them previously earlier in the video, and we're going to talk about them real quick again. So remember, this is a 3S battery because it has 3 cells inside of it. They're wired in series, hence the S. 3 is for how many are in here. Now this is the one you're going to plug into the drone. The white connector will just be hanging out when you're flying. I just got a little Velcro strapped and strapped it to the bottom of the drone. Some drones come with like a little strap. Mine didn't, but that's totally fine. You can look at the specs on the battery. Sometimes they'll tell you exactly what you need to know. Like for this one on the back, it says charge to 4.35 volts per cell to get the full charge. It's going to tell you how many milliamps are inside of it, so 550 milliamps. Sometimes it will say the amperage, sometimes it will say milliamperage. It tells you what kind of battery it is, and a bunch of information right in the front. Now, when you're flying, there is a magic number. That magic number is 3.6. You're going to take 3.6 and you're going to multiply it by how many cells are in your battery. So this is a 3S. 3.6 times 3 is about 10.8. You don't want the voltage to go below 10.8. If you do, well, that's when your drone battery might just give up and fall out of the sky. So trust me guys, do not let the voltage get lower than 10.8. Now for the 2S battery, remember it's a little bit smaller than this. It only has 2 cells instead of 3. We're going to take the 3.6, the magical number, and multiply it by 2, 7.2. We don't want the voltage to go below 7.2. And that's pretty much it, guys. So yeah, I hope this really helped. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below because it took me some time and it took me some friends to help to get this to work. All right, guys, happy flying.